So when I was at school, the only poetry that I was ever exposed to was poets like Burns and Carol Ann Duffy and kind of contemporary page poets that what we would have to do is use their poetry and do a close reading of it. Do a very in-depth critique where we tore every line and word apart and put it back together and just spent far too long figuring, do you think the poet meant this, or do you think the poet meant this or meant this? And I hated it. I was so put off by anything poetry wise that even if spoken word had come into my life at that point, which it didn't, I probably wouldn't have engaged with it, but that would have been a huge mistake. So what I want you to do, straight off the bat, forget everything you think you know about poetry. Forget everything you think you know. Just throw it away because it will not help you here. The way you think poetry has to be written, the way you think poetry has to sound, the way you think poetry has to be formatted, the way you think poetry works, what you think a poem is, chuck it out. Spoken word poetry is poetry that is written with performance in mind. It is things that are written to be spoken out loud. For that reason, what you actually write and how you write it doesn't matter because your audience doesn't get to see it. It's all about what is presented in that one space where you say that poem out loud. That's what the poem is. And because of this, because it is as much about the performance as it is about the writing, pretty much anything can be considered spoken word. A letter can be spoken word. A recipe can be spoken word. You might be sitting there thinking, I've never written a poem in my life. I cannot write spoken word. You might not have written a poem before, but you have written a list. I guarantee you'll have written a list. Spoken word is about what you have to say, not what is written on paper, because what you have written on paper is too important to just stay there. It deserves to live out loud.
Hi. Was that shit? Sorry, I'll do it again. Hello! I mean, tell me a story. And when I tell you to tell me a story, I really mean welcome home. Because my ears are the Airbnb on the holiday of your dreams. When I say your dreams, I really mean my purpose. Because if you're on a journey, then baby, I'm your designated driver. Solid 5-star Uber review, you passenger accomplice. Willing companion, synchronized compass northwards on the highways of our histories. Have you ever rode the waltzer solo after stuffing your face full of fairground fodder, then you stand up and you try to go out through the end door, pushing at the pool gate, dizzy and sick, afterburner life rising in your throat, Earth's rotation spinning between your ears? I have. A lot. Which is to say I have a lot of experience standing still when the way we move through space is the smallest force trying to push me around. Put another way, I'm a good man in a storm. I'm good at floating. The water never gets above my head, only directly to, I mean, I will not let you drown. When the oceans of this world wash inwards and carve coastlines to your front door, my body will be sandbag and sail. It's been a while since I've had to bail out the storm. I mean, I won't bail out on you. If you ask me, I will carry you over every horizon, which is to say, yeah, I know I say a lot. I have said a lot. I know I talk too much, but I've swallowed down so many stories that didn't agree with me. I get tired of bringing up the past, so tell me one of yours. Lace your voice with starlight, because Christ knows I'm scared of the dark. When I say the dark, I mean the silence. When I say the silence, I mean please, don't leave me. I don't want to be alone. Alone, this girl falls in the forest, and who gives a shit if anyone's around to hear it? Can you learn to love the garden when it looks like the underbrush? Looks like the darkest part of the fairy tale, the bit they leave out the stories? I'm not a princess or warrior, not hero or sidekick, not magic wand or spindle prick. I'm the witch they left out of the story. The mostly good kind. Who comes and goes by bubble and holds you as you cry. My magic can hold back the dark. I mean, I love you. My name is the backbone of your question mark. That thing you didn't know. Let's find out together. I mean, hello. I can't wait to get to know you.
At the start of the show, I came on stage and I took 3 minutes to introduce myself before taking the audience on a journey and telling them a story. If this is the start of your spoken word journey, a journey that I hope lasts long after this programme is finished, then what better way to begin it than to be able to do the same, to introduce yourself in that way.
By the end of this program, you will be able to do so. So it's time for you to get out your notebooks and keep them out because we use them a lot in this program. So use whatever you're comfortable with. I like a notebook, but you can use loose leaf paper, you can use a Word document on your computer, you can use notes on your phone, or you can use a waxing tablet, whatever, just whatever you're comfortable writing with. We're going to start with a super simple exercise. This is the first exercise that I ever learned when I was first exposed to spoken word poetry. So, grab your pen or open a document or do whatever. The only thing that I want you to do is to write down 3 things that you know to be true. Anything you like, you're not allowed to think too hard about it, you're only going to have 1 minute to do about it. But 3 things I know to be true. I don't usually write in marker pen, but I'm hoping that it shows up on the camera. You only have 1 minute to write down 3 things that you know to be true. Happy writing. And that is the end of our first exercise where you have written with conviction. Well done, that is not easy. That exercise is the first exercise that I ever came across when I was introduced to spoken word. And the reason that we do that exercise is just to, 1, get you writing, and 2, get you writing about things that you know to be true. Having the courage of your convictions. I learned that exercise in a TED Talk by Sarah Kay, who is one of my favourite poets and was my introduction to spoken word poetry. The point of that exercise is that if we were in a larger setting, so a classroom or a group, and we started sharing our lists, you would realise that no one has the exact same thing that is on your list of 3 things you know to be true. The point is we can all teach each other things through connection, and that is the first step in your spoken word journey. So I'd been writing and performing spoken word for about 2 years before I started writing Spark, the show. I kind of knew what I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to talk about me, I wanted to talk about who I was and how I found this journey. I wanted to talk about the people in my life, and I wanted to talk about what was important to me. But I was like, I don't know whether that's something I can just do for a show. I can't just be like, right, settle in chaps, I'm just going to talk about stuff. I knew that I had to figure out a way to do that. My sister and I were working together in a shop, and we found out that there was a touring production of Wicked playing in Edinburgh. We worked in Glasgow, and we didn't know that it was playing. So we were like, do you want to get tickets for tonight? We decided to go, and we did. After work, in our really gross, grubby work uniforms, we went to the theatre, and we were sitting up in the nosebleeds, and there's this bit in Wicked, and it's the moment right before the end of the first act where you have the show that brings out, like, the song that brings everyone to tears, Defying Gravity, and at the kind of climax of this song, the Wicked Witch of the West like rises up into the air and just sings it out to the audience. And as she did that, she went up so high, and we were so high in the seats that there was a speaker that curved down and blocked her from my view. And I was like, I'm going to miss the most important part of the show. So my sister grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and hauled me across. So I was lying flat across her chair, squashing her so that I could see too. And just that act of her pulling me across and making herself uncomfortable
so that she made sure that I got to share this moment with her. It just came so quickly. I was like, I'm going to talk about witches. So I started researching it, and I found the story of Jenny Horn and her daughter, and it was just perfect. Just all the pieces just fell into place. I just knew that using this story gave me the opportunity to talk about my family, talk about my heritage, talk about my country, talk about women, talk about sisterhood, talk about being persecuted. It gave me this opportunity to do all of that. Even after I had this epiphany about what story I wanted to tell, and I knew how I was going to tell it, it took me so long to get started. Anytime I sat down to start writing this show, I had the little voice in my head being like, well, who gave you permission? Who are you to ask people to come and see a show about witches? What makes you think that you can write a full-length show? Who do you think you are? So I thought maybe this would be a good thing to do. To start with, I should write a poem that is an introduction to me, so that if people were coming along to the show, then I'd get to, before I even started, I'd be like, here's some information about me, so you're not thinking, who is this person and why do they think they get to tell me a story? I just wanted to give you a little bit of context of who I am before I presume to tell you anything. And that helped me so much. Sitting and taking stock of all the things that are important to me, everything that I'd want to share with people, everything that I thought was important to know about me before I told you a story, really made me kind of understand that I can tell these stories and I don't need anyone's permission. I am a person with stories and experiences, and I can write poetry, and that alone entitles me to share them with you if I want to, and it does you too. So, the purpose of this program is to give you all the tools that you need to start you off on your journey to writing spoken word, and at the end, you're going to write your own introduction poem. A roughly 3-minute piece that you could take and walk into a room full of strangers, stand and deliver it, and let them know exactly who you are and what you're all about. Now, you might be sitting there thinking right now, absolutely not. But hopefully by the end of this program, you'll have changed your mind. And you'll look back on all the writing that you will have done by doing the exercises that are in this program and think to yourself, people need to hear this. So we're going to do another writing exercise, and before anyone freaks out, I'm not asking you to do any poetry right now. All I'm asking you to do is to write a list. So we're going to go back to our notebooks. I have my handy camera above here that means I hope that you can actually see this. So I want you to take a fresh page in your notebook, and at the top, write along with me just now, write down 10 things I wish people knew about me. And you can either number the pages down the side, or you can just write as you go, which I recommend because I always end up taking way more space than I've given myself if I write the numbers down the side. So you're going to write 10 things and you're not going to think too hard about them. You only have 5 minutes to do this, so I want a 1-sentence answer for each of the things that you put down. Happy writing.
Okay, welcome back. I hope you had fun writing those things down. Sometimes it can be really difficult just to go, oh my goodness, what I wish people knew about me. What the harsh time limit, I hope, forced you to just write something down really quickly. Sometimes that brings out things that you didn't really know were there, but you actually have a lot to speak about them. I also did this lesson, so I will read out what I wrote. And as you can see on my page, lots of things are scored out and taking up lots of lines in a real mess, which is absolutely fine. This stage is not actually writing something that you're sitting down. I wouldn't just give you 5 minutes and say, come up with a finished piece of writing. This is what we call the planning stage, either the mind mapping or the planning stage. And we go into both a lot later. So this is just a little bit here. I did this exercise with you and I'm going to read out what I wrote. And hopefully, if you're in a class setting, you will be encouraged to read out what you wrote and share what you wrote with people before we move on to the next stage. So, 10 things I wish people knew about me. 1. I am a Gemini. 2. I only cry at films. 3. I'm not actually a redhead. 4. I am Irish on both sides of my family tree. 5. I'm both a romantic and a realist. 6. I am a cat person. 7. I pretend to like rock music, but I actually listen to girl pop a lot. 8. I wake up around 6 times every single night. 9. I love to write. And 10. I pretend to know what I'm doing way more than I ever actually do. So just some random things about me that you might not know. What I want you to do now is to use this as a starting point to then try and expand on some of those things. Not all of them, just some. So if you kind of look back at your list and you wrote down something that was really quick, one thing that came to mind was my first one was I'm a Gemini. And I said, I wonder why I wrote that down, because I don't believe in astrology. I don't really it's not really something that I'm into. So it's funny that that's the first thing that came to mind. So what we're going to do now is to use this as the first building block for writing a new piece. You've written down 10 things you wish people knew about me, and there's things that are about you. This is a great start to writing about yourself. So I want you to go and look and see what you can expand upon. For example, if I went and expanded on number 6, then I'd say, I'm a cat person. Sadly, I'm allergic to cats. I wish I could have a dog, but they're just far too happy all the time. That's me expanding on a little bit what I've said for one. Another one is, I like that example at the top, number 1. I'm a Gemini, but you don't need to know that because I don't believe in astrology. Doesn't really matter what they are. This isn't writing a poem. This is just expanding on your list. The writing is not so scary when it's just a list. So take another 5 minutes and then expand upon it. Happy writing. Well done on expanding your list. I hope you had fun writing them. I want you to take a look at the page there. Now, what we've been talking about in the first chapter is that at some point you're going to write an introduction poem, and that might seem impossible to you, but looking at the sheet in front of you, you have a full page, maybe more, of some things that you wish that you wanted to share with people. If you just took that and read it out to a room full of strangers, it might not be the introduction poem that you want to write, but it's a really good start. Like I said in the ground rules, you'd never have to share anything what you're not comfortable with. But what I do recommend is that you sit with and examine that discomfort and try and figure out where it's coming from. Why is it that you're uncomfortable sharing your work? If it is because you've written something that is private and you want to keep to yourself, that is completely valid. Those are your stories. You don't have to tell them to anyone. But if it's because you are not too keen on public speaking, or you think that someone might make fun of you for what you've written, both those things are linked to confidence and self-assurance. And through finding your voice in the program, we're going to do exercises that help build both. Just keep checking in with yourself and try to keep pushing yourself a little bit further outside your comfort zone every time. This is new, you're trying something different and you're putting yourself out there, and that's brave. But above all, try not to worry about anything we're going to be doing. This is meant to be a fun and free experience, you trying something new and creating in a different way. This shouldn't be something that stresses you out, so try to have as much fun with it as you can. I won't say don't take it too seriously, because you should take your abilities and take your voice and take what you have to say seriously, but don't take it so seriously that you're worried about what you're writing. Again, quoting a ground rule, it's not about the poem that comes at the end of it, it's about the process of writing.